Welcome to episode 32 of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
Hi, I'm Chris. This podcast is designed for the Becoming Ellie community, which is women over 50 who want to focus on getting and staying fit, eating healthy, and maintaining an active lifestyle as we grow older.
Hi, I'm Jill. If you're wondering who Ellie is, she's the Norse goddess of aging who surprised everyone after she was challenged to a wrestling match with Thor and won. We want to be fit and strong as we age, just like Ellie. Today, Chris and I talk with Tammy Wise, a widely respected mind-body fitness expert, owner of Body Logos, Inc., and author of the newly published book and 3D video learning system, The Art of Strength, Sculpt the Body, Train the Mind. Tammy is a former Broadway dancer turned Tao minister. She teaches a Tao-based holistic strength training method that unites principles from both Eastern and Western philosophies. Through her work and private practice in New York City, she teaches alignment as a way to relieve tension and build strength. Using fitness, beauty, and wellness regimens, Tammy introduces the ancient Tao practice of active meditation into modern-day settings to create positive change. I hope you enjoy listening to the conversation with Tammy as much as Chris and I enjoyed talking with her. On to the podcast.
Tammy, I'm so thrilled that you've agreed to do this because Jill and I have been looking at your website and it's very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
All of your work, actually.
Thank you.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you join us, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. On your website, you have a quote that says, "Our bodies are continually telling us what our story is through our pain.
Yeah.
We can either continue living the same story or set out on a new path." And then Body Logos is how I changed my story and the roadmap to changing yours. How did you change your story? What's the story on that?
Well, our body's tension is stored in our soft tissues, right? And where we carry tension is very significant. Generally, the tension that we hold on to in our body is the tension that is still unresolved. So the unresolved aspects of our story continue to direct our decisions and direct our reactions and pretty much write our future story unless we are able to really integrate this tension and transform it, in fact, into our strength. So my story of tension started in a household with a father who was a pedophile. And so for 3 years, he would come into my room at night on a fairly regular basis, and it became a lifestyle. And in these moments, I would disassociate out of my physical body to a place where I was in my energy body and what felt like a stretch between earth and sky. I was in what I can only call perfect alignment. And in this place, I felt connected to something that was bigger than me, a place where I felt safe, a place that I felt relevant. I lived those 3 years kind of like a ping pong ball between the tension-filled little body in her bed and this very powerful, elongated alignment between earth and sky. And my mission has been to learn to create that perfect alignment deliberately and consciously so I can use it in my life. I use it in my physicality. I got so good at it, I became a professional dancer. I use it in my problem solving for emotional challenges and mental challenges. So I am continually using the technique that I've created, which I call Body Logos, the body's divine wisdom, and it continually begins to break down the tension template of my life story into a much freer life where I can be truly authentic and not be afraid to be so.
Wow.
That was an ear load.
Wow.
Well, I wanted to go back to probably the second thing that you said, that where we store the body's tension in our tissues are the unresolved issues. And do you mean in your shoulders or
Yeah,
in your
for
back?
example, at anywhere. So your shoulders are the widest part of your skeletal frame. So they really represent your integrity in your posture, but they also represent your integrity in life, what you stand for, what you stand by. And so when there's tension in your shoulders, depending on the direction it's bringing your posture, it has a significance around that idea of how you feel about your own value and values in the world.
Wow. This is a lot to wrap my head around. It's good.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it like your mind, your brain is like a computer. It stores the information of your story. It can recall exactly what happened, but it doesn't have the emotional storage. It doesn't remember what it felt like. It's your soft tissues, it's your organs, your muscles, your tendons that store the emotional story of what's happened to you.
Okay, so like you're in your gut, you can feel it in your gut, or your heart is heavy. That's the soft tissues.
Exactly. So traditionally in Tao, I'm a Tao minister, a Broadway dancer turned Tao minister. Now, the healing arts under the umbrella of Tao work with this idea, this mind-body connection in every principle that they work with. And so they would look at your gut as, you feel it in your gut. We store worry in our digestive system. So when you feel worry, you feel it in your gut.
Okay.
And your heart stores joy and your lungs store sorrow. So we cry when we're sad, and our heart rate actually is elevated when we're happy.
Wow.
I mean, you can even see with your little puppies that you have right now that when they get scared and they tuck their tail between their legs, or they get really nervous when somebody comes to the door, so often little puppies pee on the floor because we carry our fear in our kidneys. Now, how that translates to the human body is we feel low back pain when we're trying to deal with anything that's fear related, because our kidneys live in our low back.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, there's a number of things here I want to ask you. So what you're saying is, if I suffer from, well, let's say from like TMJs, sore, my jaw gets sore, tight.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that those things relate to specific emotional issues? Like,
I'm sure that it does. I don't really have I would have to look at your posture in more of a holistic way than just to pick out that TMJ element. I don't have enough experience with TMJ to know what it typically goes along with that. But I will look at your entire posture, and I will see how you respond to physical challenge, because how you respond to physical challenge is going to show me how you respond to all challenge. Because what we do is what we do in life.
Right.
In any place is what we do in our life. And so I can see what happens when you're up against challenge in certain places of the body, and how your body either is able to maintain its alignment or where it breaks down. And that becomes significant.
Can we back up for a minute? So you became a dancer, and then a Tao minister. How did that whole transition occur? And I mean, it's a very interesting life path you have.
Yeah. So I think what got me into the dance training was an extension of my earlier story, where I wanted to really figure out how to create this perfect alignment deliberately. So I went to ballet class. I stood at a ballet bar, and I tried to figure this out. Now, back in the 70s, when I was first starting dancing, they would teach us to squeeze your buttocks so tight that you can't sit down because it's so sore after class. And I couldn't imagine how you could possibly dance gracefully when you're just squeezing your cheeks together that hard. It just made absolutely no sense to me at all. So I kept trying to figure out the ways in which to use relaxation to create the alignment they were asking for. And eventually I came up with my own technique. Now, I was dancing in a chorus line on Broadway right out of high school. When I turned 19, I got the show, stayed with the show till I was 21, and my career continued. I continued performing until I was about 50.
Oh.
At which point I put the performing aside. I took a break of about 5 years, and I went to seminary to become a Tao minister. And that happened because, well, that story, I guess, starts with having seen, when I was on the road first with the chorus line, there was an older woman in the cast who seemed unhappy. She wasn't happy. And I thought, well, how could you be in this show and be living your dream and not be happy? It just didn't make any sense to me at all. And as a young girl, I'm 19. What do I know? And I just decided in that moment that if I ever looked that way, and I was still performing, that it was time to get out of it. That's when would be time to go. Because, as a dancer, your career's not going to last forever. You're going to age out at some point.
Right.
I got to a point, I guess it was in my early 30s, where I started to get just a little inkling of what I thought that woman was experiencing. And I decided, it's time to start looking for what else you're interested in. And I used to read a lot of philosophy whenever I was on a tour, and I really loved the Eastern philosophies. And when I was looking at the direction I might go next, I was looking at Anne-Marie Colbin's Natural Gourmet School, because I was really interested in energy, how energy worked and how we could maintain that energy as we aged, and how to continue to be an athlete my entire life. I took this herbology class at her school and met a man named John Linseth, who had his own school called the School of Classical Taoist Herbology. And I started studying with him. And I had no intentions of becoming a minister, but I became a full-time student of his for 4 years, at which point he said, you could become a Tao minister if you chose to. And he told me what that would mean and what I would have to do. And I decided that was a really good direction for me, because I truly lived the principles of Tao. It wasn't something I had to become. I, in relationship to Tao, feel connected to something bigger than me. It's a spiritual path that has always given me a great deal of ease in my life. It's connected to nature. It looks at nature as our supreme wisdom. And all of the principles of Tao are a reflection of what you see in nature. So it isn't about a story as much as it is about the cosmology of how our universe came to be. And I can very much relate to that.
Just your path in life is fascinating. So then, how did that lead you into doing a fitness or strength training? Maybe we should back up here a minute too and tell us what your company, your business is, and what you actually do with people, with your clients.
Right. Well, right now it's a combination of doing personal training with people in the gym. I can do group fitness classes as well, although I haven't been doing that recently. I do mostly one-on-one coaching. And then I have an office with a massage table where I do the traditional Tao practices and various types of body work. So my goal is to help people step into their strength and resolve their tension, whether it's hands-on or actually getting them in their bodies and working on their alignment and their response to challenge. A dumbbell or in the gym is a challenge. And so you could just put whatever emotional challenge you're having in the resistance you're working with in the gym, and you're working not only on sculpting the body, but training the mind in a very balanced way. What I have learned is most important in any of the either hands-on practices that I'm doing or the personal training in the gym is that there's a balance between contraction and release. If you're going to pick up something heavy using your bicep muscles, its opposite muscle, the tricep, has to release in the opposite and equal direction. And In doing that, the bones in the middle between those two opposing muscles become very quiet. So your workout becomes more like an active meditation. You find the quiet place within. And that's what I mean about stepping into your authenticity, because that's where you find it.
So is that what you mean when you combine mind and body in fitness?
Yes. Yes. So you're looking at which muscle groups carry what kind of emotion, and then applying those muscle groups, challenging those muscle groups, using whatever you are up against in your life presently.
So muscle groups, you talked a little bit about the different emotions that are held in different places of the body. But as far as the muscles, what are there certain areas of muscles that hold different emotions too?
Exactly. So let's just go back to the bicep tricep, since we talked about that already. Your biceps are what pull desirables towards you. It's the muscle that feeds you, that brings the food from the plate to your mouth. So it's the muscle that literally pulls what you would like into your life. Now your triceps, on the other hand, do exactly the opposite. They push undesirables away. So it's what's used when the lady directing traffic puts her hand out in front to make the car stop. That's her tricep working right there. Stop right there. So your triceps are what you use to push undesirables away. So in the gym, if you're trying to bring something into your life or create a good habit in your life, focusing on that while you're doing a bicep exercise would be a wonderful way of strengthening your commitment to that idea. And the same thing with your triceps. If you're trying to stop a particular behavior or learn to just say no to the chocolate cake or whatever.
I was thinking, it's so funny that you said that, because I was thinking, okay, think ice cream when you're working on your chicken arms.
That's the idea. But here's where it gets really interesting, is if you're doing a bicep contraction, but your triceps are still tight, they're not fully releasing. What will happen is your elbow joint, which is will start to move, or your shoulder joint will start to move. It won't stay in its proper alignment, so your skeleton starts to falter.
Oh,
This is when you know. This is why alignment is so important. It tells you everything. The minute you are not releasing as much as you're contracting, you're bringing in other muscle groups to try to make whatever you're trying to do happen. And it makes it messy. It makes it really messy. Then your joints start to have problems. You start to struggle. You start to get confused in your mind. Your body doesn't know what you're trying to do. Nothing is clear. And it's the same sort of that kind of static that we can get in our mind when we get confused. That's what happens in the body when you don't have a balance of contraction and release. It doesn't know what you're trying to do. And it starts to create bad habits. And these bad habits are what create your posture, which then enables me to tell you your life story just by looking at your posture. I can tell you where you struggle and where you're strong. But I can't tell you the details, but I can tell you what it's challenging in your emotional makeup.
that's pretty profound.
Yeah, it's amazing. The body is so intelligent. It has so much to tell us if we know how to listen.
So if I'm in the gym and I'm doing, all right, let's just say I'm standing there doing bicep curls, and someone says, "Hey, you have bad form."
Mm-hmm.
That should be a clue to me then that I should be thinking about what am I actually thinking about, or what's
Yeah, what am I doing?
What am I doing here?
That's so perfect. I should be thinking about what I'm doing. Absolutely, you should be thinking about what you're doing. That's so good. So going through the motions isn't really enough, is it? In any job, including the fitness of your body, especially the fitness of the body, because your body is your closest confidant. So to learn how to really use it with precision and respect, that you're really paying attention to what it's doing, it pays you back tenfold.
Normally, when people talk about mind body, that makes me think of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, your program is much different than that. But is there a connection, or what's different?
Well, this is what I would say is where yoga and and body logos are parallel, is that we have a spiritual relationship with gravity. We feel, when in the practice, you feel your relationship with gravity as paramount. Not how long you can hold a pose or how many reps you can do with a dumbbell. What's paramount is your bones' relationship with gravity. And once that starts to falter, you need to pause and stop and reoxygenate, and that's how you get stronger. But that's how you get stronger with respect for your body's relationship with gravity, or in like I said, in both of these practices, yoga and body logos, we look at that relationship with gravity as aligning with a spiritual overarching strength. So when you step into your strength, you're not just stepping into yourself as an independent, separate entity. You're stepping into that and more, because you got gravity at your back. When you step into gravity, you feel weightless. You don't feel the weight of the world on you. You feel the world holding you up. But when you're not in alignment with gravity, you feel the burden of your own story and the burden of your demands.
Well, I'm finding myself sitting up much taller here than I usually do. I'm very conscious of my posture, and usually I'm kind of hunched over the microphone here, thinking, listening, but talking to you, Tammy, I feel like and I'm just picturing our listeners doing the exact same thing in their life.
Great. I hope that's true.
So, and I know you have a book that came out recently.
Yes.
Is this covered in your book?
This is what the book is about. Absolutely. It's called The Art of Strength, Sculpt the Body, Train the Mind. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. You can find it at my site, but yeah, it's out there. And It's published by Balboa Press, which is an adjunct of Hay House. And I'm really, really excited. It comes with 15 video tutorials that help you to really see how energy travels through the body and this balance that I'm talking about between contraction and release. There are various patterns that the body makes when you're doing various isolations in the body. This will talk you through it. It will give you the visuals to help support what I'm trying to describe. I believe the book there are so many stories about how to relate these principles that I'm teaching through the book to your everyday living. So yes, it's a fitness book. It'll transform your strength training workout into an active meditation that develops you on the inside and the outside. The goal is to become relaxed on the inside so you can be strong on the outside. But it requires redefining strength. Because in the fitness industry up until now, I think there has been no distinction between tension and strength. And it's created a lot of injuries. It has made a lot of people not feel welcome in the gym because they don't have that kind of hyper energy that can create that kind of, alliance to tension. It's an alliance to competition. And you can be competitive with yourself without breaking down your alignment. But if people don't understand that threshold of breaking down your alignment is the threshold of going from creating strength to creating tension, they don't know when to stop. And the fitness industry hasn't been really clear as a whole, I'm generally speaking, on a whole, to help people really, really learn the difference. And if you just develop tension, not just, but if your workout is as much about developing tension as it is strength, then ultimately what happens to access your strength, you have to bully through all of the tension that your body has, which means you have to be 10 times stronger than you would need to be if you didn't have all that tension.
So your book and your philosophy of this involves releasing the tension. Is that correct?
Yes, it's as much about releasing tension as it is connecting to resistance from your strength.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. The whole fitness industry doesn't really talk so much. I mean, a lot in yoga, they talk about releasing tension.
Yes.
But But when you're doing the workouts, a typical strength training regimen, lifting and doing, let's say, burpees and push-ups and plank, there's not a lot of talk about releasing tension at all.
No, I have never had a trainer say, and now release the tension.
It's more like tighten up those
They
abs.
might say relax.
Tighten up those glutes, tighten up those abs, it's a lot like that.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say often to a client is keep doing what you're doing, use less energy. And now less energy again. Now less energy again. Bring it down to the bare bones of what's needed. And meet the resistance like it's a handshake, not like you're trying to dominate it. You're not trying to dominate. You're trying to connect.
Ah, that's a whole different philosophy.
Yeah, it's coming from a very different place than the traditional fitness world.
So people who do more endurance sports, running, bicycling, swimming, I guess, is there any difference for them?
It all applies. It completely all applies. Because posture is posture no matter where you are. So it applies to your life too. Like sitting at the computer. You talked about leaning into your microphone.
Right.
So that's like how people lean into the computer grid.
Yes.
It's as if they're trying to become part of the grid. Now, I think that you got the job, not your computer. And the way to hook into the World Wide Web is to actually sit up straight and connect to gravity. Now that's the World Wide Web. Let the information at the computer come to you. Let the voice coming through your microphones and headsets come to you. You don't have to reach for it. It's coming to you. Just stay aligned with gravity, connected to that bigger purpose that you have, why you're doing the show, why you're doing what you do in life. And that is what then guides your choices, as opposed to the desperate chase for the information or the words or the right way in some other, in the computer grid. Nothing wrong with surfing the web, but just don't lose yourself in the doing.
Is this specifically helpful for women over 50? And how would that be different than, say, for younger women?
I think that it's useful for everybody their entire life. But here's the thing. As we get older, how it applies to the women over 50. As we get older, of course, at about the age of 35, your bones start to get softer. Right? So you're told all the time that you need to have these checkups to make sure your bone density is strong, that you should do strength training to keep your bones strong. So the strength training component of what I'm talking about is very, very important for keeping our bones strong. And particularly women who tend to be not as heavy, because you can do it. If you're 100 pounds overweight, I don't think your bones are going to get weak because you're doing strength training all the time.
Right.
If you're not overweight and you're actually at an optimal weight, you actually do, as you get older, need to do some strength training to keep your bones strong. And so this is a way to do that and stay connected to your bigger principles in life, your bigger goals in life. Women tend to be a little bit more open-minded to the holistic approach to living. And I'm not saying men are not, because they are. And that audience is growing bigger and bigger. But your audience is women, and how it applies to women is that I will still say I have more women than men interested in what I'm doing. I'd say it's probably a third men to 2/3 women. And it's because I think they're more curious. They're more curious about it. And they don't have the brute strength that men have. So they know they can't out-strengthen men in that brutal way. The only way they can be in their strength is to do it in a holistic way, where they have the power of gravity and, everything else I'm talking about here on their side.
And I don't know why, but I would suspect that the men who are interested are probably not really young men, because they're in their prime of strength and they just think that's like the way the world is. So
typically that's
I could
correct.
see, so that I would see that as you begin to age, as men begin to age, and they have to start looking at it a little differently.
Typically that's really correct. But I'm going to add one thing about adolescence. Women going through menopause, it's so important to keep up the strength training. Girls going through adolescence, they're confused. They have a lot of body issues, right?
Right.
Body logos is a beautiful thing for young girls going through that change of life also, because it's not just about being physically strong. It's about being emotionally strong and stepping into your uniqueness and who you are authentically and feeling strong about it. So as you're strengthening your body and you're feeling good about having a lifted open chest and not being so self-conscious about having breasts that you can't stand up straight, it's a really wonderful practice for young girls too. So mothers in their 50s raising girls, this is a wonderful thing to do together.
So we recently had a guest on who was talking about hormones, and she made the observation that girls going through puberty have many of the same issues as women going through menopause. So it's interesting.
Yep. You're hearing it again.
I'm going to have to think about this because there's obviously a lot of similarities between those two ages.
Yes. Always remember, in the mind-body connection, it's a 24/7 relationship. It is always connected. That is why whatever you do in one place is what you do in another place, because you are who you are. So all of these things are going to operate very similarly, whether you're talking about hormones or your fitness regime,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Now, if I would assume that being in touch with all of this helps you to avoid injury, but if you're already injured, what should we do that helps to realign things?
Well, it's a good point. It's always best to work preventatively.
Yes.
But this is a fantastic technique for injuries. Very often people pass through me when they're coming out of physical therapy, entering back into their regular workout regime. They pass through me first because it helps them connect to their core strength so that everything they do is connected to their abdominals. And I believe that our core muscles are the abdominals, buttocks, and inner thighs, that those three muscle groups are what keep the bones of the upper body and the bones of the lower body all connected through that very thin waistline of our spine. That those are the muscles that keep us hooked into our power. So people will pass through me to get back to the regular regime because I help them connect to that underlying strength that you get from being in your center.
That's interesting. If you have been injured, you think working on the core to realign, to start there?
That's the first place. That's right. Because that's a part of every single thing you do. You can't do anything else without that. And safely. Let's just put it that way. You can't do anything else safely without that. So if you're coming out of an injury, you don't want to just go back to the old pattern that created the injury. You need to create a new pathway. And that's really what it is about this tension template that I named it a tension template earlier. Your body never forgets anything. Our nervous system is pretty amazing. We do not forget. So it's very easy to go into an old pattern, even after we learn a new one, because our body knows it.
Yeah.
But the more we do the new pattern, the easier it is to sustain it. Now, when we're at our weakest, when we get sick, when we have, when we're grieving something, when we're not at our best, we tend to fall into those patterns. But those are the best times, and injury is another time. So those are the best times to actually create the new pattern and start putting attention in that direction. Because it really is not that it's any physically harder to do things from a safe, centered place, but it does take more attention particles because you can't just go on habit, because your habits are flawed. Your habits are riddled with the tension of your story. So when I say you want to change your life story so that you don't just keep repeating it, then that means you need to change the tension pattern into one that is in flow. So maybe this will help you to understand that tension and strength are actually the very same root. They're energy. But tension is energy that's stagnant, and strength is energy that's in flow. It is connecting to the goal. Tension stands between you and the goal, static.
That does help. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sorry, I should have said that way earlier in this.
No, that's okay. So we tend to ask everyone this question, and so I'm going to ask you, how do you define fit?
What a great question. Well, first of all, I would say that it is a mind-body alignment whereby you are able to follow through with your goals, with your hopes and your dreams. If you don't have the stamina, if you don't have the strength, if you don't have the attention span, if you don't have the attention management to be able to work towards your dreams, then I would say that would be an unfit life. So it's definitely a combination of having the physical strength and endurance and the emotional and mental strength and endurance.
That's a lovely answer. Thank you. And this goes back to your original story and everything you've talked about. But all of the work that you do obviously will help make you stronger physically, able to do more. But in doing all of this, you're also going to improve the mind part, so that if I'm working in the gym or I'm trying to become strong, but I can't get my work finished because I can't pay attention to it, I lose focus, whatever. This program would help. What you're saying would help with that as well, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that any practice that connects you to the spirit of what you're doing. So here in Body Logos, we're always connecting you back to yourself, your authentic self. So the spirit of who you are.
Okay.
So your attention is getting used to staying in alignment with that spirit self. So that when you go back to your work outside of the gym, you can continue to do the same thing. You're connected to your work because it has some sort of a spiritual plug-in. You need to be deliberate to plug in to why you're doing the things that you're doing. We don't always like every aspect of our job, but if we're plugged into the reason we're doing the job, then we're always excited to do whatever part of the job we need to do, because it's getting us closer and closer to whatever our goal is in that job.
Can I shift gears a little bit here?
Sure.
I'd love to talk to you, Tammy, about healthy eating and how you eat. Is there anything specific that you could share with us? I'm sure you have a philosophy around this.
Yeah, diet is not my expertise. This is not what I do with my clients per se, but I can certainly say a few things that are in alignment with what I do and Tao and how I would
Wonderful.
talk to somebody about it. So in Tao, we look at the 5 tastes.
Okay.
So we have spicy and salty and sour and bitter. And what did I miss? I missed something. But to try to get a balance of these flavors in our diet is a really important thing.
I think the one you missed is sweet.
Oh, there we go. It's the one that we all...
Because I noticed that one right away.
That was
you
good.
can see where my head's at.
Now the thing is if you balance all these flavors in your diet, you don't have the cravings for sweet.
Yes. Okay.
You don't have the cravings for bitter. You don't, because some people crave coffee, right?
Right.
You don't have the, it really balances those things out, including during pregnancy. I have worked with some clients during pregnancy, and they were gaining weight like crazy, and I was like, listen, let's try this. And so we would get them balanced in their taste, and they suddenly stopped needing to eat so much.
Huh.
The craving stopped.
So it's all about balance.
It's always about balance. All of it is about balance. And then the other thing with food is I think that it's really important to spread things out. I'm more an advocate of more meals, less food in a sitting, and eat more often. I think that for food diet, you want to balance the flavors, but then you also want to not eat a lot in one sitting and not let it get too complicated. Like maybe I will have some tuna with a really simple salad. And that's
Okay,
fine.
sure.
But then later on, I might have a sweet potato. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't need to have all of that on the same plate at the same time.
Yes.
So that's how I spread the meals out a little bit.
Could you describe how you normally eat in a day, like breakfast, lunch, or you have maybe 6 meals a day?
Yeah, so
How do you do it?
Typically, I'll start the day with a smoothie, and I'll put in an apple, a banana, some mango, some wild blueberries, and some celery. I'll put some coconut water in it, maybe some spirulina for some protein, zip it up, and that's breakfast. So it's
Okay.
a lot of fruit, but I'll probably drink half of it one day and the other half the next day.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the first thing I put down. I go and I see a client. After that client, I might have a hard-boiled egg with some hot sauce, something, some more protein, and a cup of coffee. And then later on, when I come home for lunch, I might have the tuna and salad thing.
Okay.
And then later on in the afternoon, I might have that sweet potato, or maybe I'll have. They sell these great things at Westside Market, close to where I live here, that is ground down almonds and figs and raisins and a bunch of just, it's sort of fruity and nutty, and they sell them in chunks, and you can just, it's easy to carry in a Ziploc bag, and so that's a nice thing too for sort of a protein fruit thing. And then when I come home at night, maybe I'll have some soup, or it's winter right now, so I have a lot of soups at night. Maybe I'll have a nice piece of like peasant bread or rye bread or something, a dark bread. I stick to dark breads when I have bread. I don't have a lot of bread. I don't have a lot of pasta. I don't have a lot of processed foods.
Okay.
Try to stick with just real food. And so that's an example of a day.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you have your training, personal training, your fitness business. You've authored a new book, and I saw on your website you've started a line of beauty products.
Yes. I did that some time ago. It's been around for about 10 years now. Right now there's only 5 products so far, but they're lovely products, and they're all made from organic food ingredients that you can use on your skin. One is an actual tea. I call it Beat a Cold Tea, and it's for head colds or allergies. And it really does clear your head right out. So all of the products are to help you look and feel your best. And each one is packaged with a Tao quote, so that while you're using it, you're actually, again, trying to expand into that bigger connection with spirit. So, for example, with the Beat a Cold Tea, the quote that's on that packaging is, "You can rest in your essence where true safety lies."
Wow.
So while you sip the tea, you just remember that you don't have to keep chasing what you can't keep up with, that you can just rest with you.
All right, so you have all these things. What's next on your list? What's coming up for you now?
Well, I think right now, the thing that I'm trying to do more of is get out there and speak more. You know, I was always a dancer. I didn't speak. I moved. I was a storyteller through movement. When I was a kid, I kept a secret for a very long time, and in regard to my childhood story with my dad, and it made me a little bit afraid to talk. And so my newest challenge and it's to help get body logos out there in the world, and to get my book out there in the world, The Art of Strength, is to get out there and speak and work with all of the various tensions that I've yet to resolve around using my voice. So it's a pretty exciting next step for me. I'm really psyched, actually.
Oh, good.
So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
Oh, you're welcome, and it has been our pleasure.
Yes. In fact, I was wondering, what should we have asked, but we didn't?
Let's see. Ask me, what do I have to give away to your audience?
Yes, that would be Tammy. What do you have to give away to our audience?
I have a free video that's 8 minutes long, and it teaches you how to surrender tension. If you go to bodylogos.com, that's bodylogos.com, and you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, you're going to see a little gift there that you can click on to surrender tension in 8 minutes. So you just click on that, and you offer your email so that we can send it to you, and it's yours for the keeping.
Nice.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's very generous of you to offer it to our guests.
And I think that when we hit 50, I think we feel that, I think that's really that moment, at least for me. I'm now 56, but at 49, I went, oh my God, I'm going to turn 50 next year. And I haven't left anything for the world at large. I didn't have any children, and I had already been through menopause, so couldn't make a baby. So I got to work on writing this book that I now have just published, The Art of Strength. This feels like a body of work that is really valuable and can help a lot of people. And I think when we get to this age of being 50 and we want to feel that we have left our mark in the world, if we don't feel like we've done it, we need to connect inwardly, not outwardly, inwardly, to figure out what that something is so that we can do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of women, when they turn 50, often end up feeling like, I now need to start thinking about myself. And they may start thinking about, I want to be more fit, they want to do things to improve themselves and to improve the world in some way. That, our worlds can be a little more closely drawn when you're younger because you're focusing on either building your career or building a family or both, and you know, your mind is busy with all the ingredients of living a life, and then when you get to be around 50, you suddenly realize, hey, there's more to it than just this.
That's right. And you want to do all those things without beating yourself up because you're tired.
Right.
So thinking of, a fitness regime, even though you want it, can sometimes sound just more.
Right. You want me to do
like,
what?
I can't do anymore. And so I think that body logos is a really, it's a type of practice that isn't asking you to step outside of what you are capable of doing right now. Because when you step beyond the strength that you have right now, instead of challenging the strength you have right now, then you're creating tension, not strength. And that doesn't feel good. The minute it doesn't feel good, you know you're on the wrong track. Because connecting to your strength feels good because you feel strong.
That's good.
Yes, that's wonderful. And, learning how to surrender tension so that you can actually access your strength makes so much sense.
Right. But I can see what, as we're talking, the long pauses are like you're trying to wrap your head around what I'm even saying, because it's not, even though they're not complicated words, they're not put together like this.
Right.
Generally speaking. And to try to kind of go, well, what does that actually mean?
Mm-hmm.
It really is a revolutionary way of living in your body that considers body, mind, and spirit.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, I think that we have made it to the lightning round. Chris and I will ask you short, to-the-point questions, and you can give a short, to-the-point answer, or say yes, no, both, neither, or you can choose to elaborate. So there's no right or wrong.
Okay, great.
Zumba or Pilates?
Pilates. Pilates first, Zumba second.
Okay.
There you go. Bike or run or swim?
Bike or swim, but if you want to do weight loss, bike, because you're always cooling your body off when you're swimming, and you need the heat to lose calories, to burn calories.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I knew there was a reason why I really didn't like that swimming. Okay.
or a reason why I really like the biking.
Broccoli or cauliflower?
Broccoli. It's green.
Right.
Vegan or paleo?
Oh, wow. I eat everything. I just eat everything in balance. Okay. So I'm not even sure how to answer that one.
Just say neither.
Okay.
Yeah, neither. Just balance, yeah.
Okay.
No matter which diet you choose, balance.
Gym or park?
Depends on the weather.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good answer. Eggs or oatmeal?
Eggs.
Yeah, me too.
Treadmill, Stairmaster, or elliptical?
That really depends on what your issues are. It really depends on you. There's no right or wrong answer there.
Okay.
What do you like the best?
I like the elliptical personally.
Okay. Okay, here's one. Wine or beer?
Well, I preference beer.
Okay.
I do too.
But I would say whichever you like best, but within, reason.
Yeah, moderation, sure.
Moderation, yeah.
Kettlebell or dumbbell?
Dumbbell. I don't like kettlebells.
Okay.
I don't like throwing weight around.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. And that is what you often do with a kettlebell.
Yep.
Quinoa or rice?
Well, probably quinoa.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
I like them both, but probably tea.
Oh.
We're talking about health, right?
Well, just whatever you prefer.
I prefer coffee. I'm a coffee drinker, but when 2 cups of coffee a day is probably all I should do in the morning and in the afternoon. If I feel like I want something else that's bitter, I'll have tea. I'll shift to tea then.
Okay. All right.
And when I'm sick, I prefer tea. So it's probably better for you. That's usually a telltale sign something's better for you.
Oh, yeah. The things that, yes. Okay. That makes sense.
I think I already know the answer to this question about bread, yes or no. You said no. I thought you said something about peasant bread.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to do bread, do the dark whole grain breads as opposed to like the overly processed white flour.
Okay. And what is peasant bread? I wanted to ask a little more about that. I'm not sure what that is.
Well, I get this rye peasant bread that they call it. They call it peasant bread, but I think it's just more whole grain than it is overly processed flours.
Gotcha.
I think that peasant bread it's not formed. It's usually round or just sort of patted into shape and then baked.
Oh, it's about its shape?
I believe so. But it does tend to be heavier, whole grains, usually darker. So, it's sort of so many centuries ago or whatever, the more the flour was milled, the whiter it was, but also the more expensive it was. So back then people who were eating whole grain bread were peasants.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's a combination, but they tend to not be baked in like bread pans.
Right. Wow, how times have changed.
Yeah, isn't it? It's sort of interesting. If you could give your 20-year-old self some advice, what would it be?
Well, from that sigh, I guess I would have to say slow down.
Ah.
Slow down. Take it in. Take in every moment. It's not in front of you. It's in you. You don't have to chase. You already have it.
Nice. That's great.
So before we go, I want to make sure that people who want to find you can find you online. And can you just let us know how do you prefer they find you?
Well, they can come to my website, bodylogos.com, bodylogos.com. And I have a Facebook presence with Body Logos. I have a Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram accounts also, so you can also find me in those directions. I do a regular blog on my site, so you can follow that. You can find the book on my site or on Amazon, and again, that's The Art of Strength: Sculpt the Body, Train the Mind.
Nice.
Wonderful.
We'll put links to all of that in the notes for this episode.
Great.
People can access it that way. Thank you, Tammy, so much for meeting with us today, talking with us. It's been a very inspirational talk, and I have a lot of thinking to do and researching to do, I guess.
Oh, good. Good. Well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing so much information with us and with our listeners.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, Chris, what did you think about today's episode?
Excellent.
I agree. She sure gave us a lot to think about. What I liked about it was that your brain remembers the details of your story, but it's your body that holds the emotional memory. That really feels very true to me. And that she said tension and strength have the same root, and tension is energy that's stagnant, and strength is energy that's in flow. There's a lot here I have to think about. I may actually have to get her book, which I'll remind you was called The Art of Strength, Sculpt the Body, Train the Mind. I am really intrigued by that. And I want to remind all our listeners that Tammy is offering us a free 8-minute video on how to release pressure. Don't forget to check that out. You can go to Tammy's website, bodylogos.com, scroll to the bottom, and then there's a graphic at the bottom of the screen for the free video.
Great.
Thanks to Tammy for giving us a great conversation today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And if there's a subject that you'd like for us to explore on the podcast, please send us an email. We also have a phone number where you can call to leave us a message. That number is 330-970-6662. You can also find that number on the website.
Yes, don't forget to subscribe at our website for updates on all the Becoming Ellie information.
Thanks for listening. Join us for the next episode of Fit Strong Women Over 50.
Yes, see you next time. Bye for now.